Okay, welcome back. We will continue with our discussion as fast as we possibly can. So let us now go to the difference between, we are now going to look at net exports. Also in AS, we refer to the same as balance of trade. The net exports is exports minus the imports. So the balance of trade can be in three positions. It can either be in balance, which means exports become exactly equal to imports, or it can be in a deficit where the exports are less and the imports are more, and it can be in a surplus where the exports are more and the imports are less. Okay, so that is the thing. Now, the thing that you need to keep in mind is that when income rises, okay, when income rises, when Y rises, national income goes up. The net export, when income rises, exports remain the same. They are not affected. When income rises, imports increase because you can now afford to import and use goods from abroad. Okay? When income rises, the net exports, which is export minus import, they fall. Okay, so all three, export, net export, and import, are three different things, and they have three different relationships with income. Exports have no relationship with income. Imports have a positive relationship with income. They are upward sloping. They are directly proportional. As income rises, imports will rise. And net export, which is export minus import, has a negative relationship with income. Why? When let's say your income is 1,000, look at the example. When the income is 1,000, your exports are 2,000, okay, and your imports are 500. Your net exports, which is export minus import, NX, is 1,500. Okay, when income goes up from 1,000 to 2,000, now what happens? Assuming that the marginal propensity to import in this country is very high, so what's going to happen? Your exports will remain the same. They are not related to your income, but your imports, because of your higher marginal propensity to import, will rise from 500 to 1,500, leading to a decrease in net export. So there is a negative relationship between income and net exports. There's an inverse relationship. This curve will be a downward sloping curve. Also, when your income goes up, you need to do more production. You need to import some intermediary goods. So that will also lead to an increase in imports. All said and done, this is going to increase in income is going to lead to a decrease in net exports, and your graph is going to look something like this. This is the net export graph. Okay, export graph is a line horizontal to the x-axis, but the net export graph is a line which is downward sloping, and this is the downward sloping line. It cuts the y-axis, it cuts the x-axis at y2, and here the trade is in balance. Your net exports are zero because your imports and exports are exactly equal. But as your income rises, your net exports goes into the negative area and it falls. And here is a numerical example which you can do, and this will explain to you better. Okay, so the net export function, as I said, is downward sloping. Um, Now, on this graph, what I have done is that I have shown all three. Your exports are x naught, which is parallel to the x-axis. Your imports are upward sloping, but please do keep in mind, do not start your m graph, your import function, from the origin. It starts from the y-axis after you take the autonomous into account. You add the two, and you get the next graph. Now, in the next graph, what happens is you have imports, the exports, and the net exports. Okay, you have the import, which is going up, the dotted line which is going up. You have the export, which is the dotted line which is parallel to the x-axis, and the net export. So the import is upward sloping, and net export is downward sloping. Okay, and this again is the same thing which we discussed last time. This is these are the different graphs. I need to explain these to you, so please bear with me and try to concentrate on these graphs. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that they become more clear. Okay, so let's look at the first graph. The first graph on the left, I'm sorry about the quality of the image, this was not very good, but we'll have to work with it. The first graph on the left is net export NX. And what happens? Please see. Here there is a movement along the net export line. What happens is that when the income rises, okay, when the income rises and there's an extension in the income, what happens? The net export becomes negative, the net export falls. And when there is a reduction in y, then the net then the net export, it actually becomes better. Why? Because your imports are uh, falling, and your net exports are your net exports are getting better, because the import figure is going down, the export figure is at the same level, though there is an increase in the net export. So this is what happens when income rises and falls. This is a movement along the curve, but there are movements off the curve as well. Now look at what happens when there's an autonomous change in either export or import. Okay, so what happens initially? Look at the second graph. Initially you are at nx naught. You are at this curve where we are starting, and that is nx, net export starts. Now the net export then becomes, it moves parallel, rises parallel to nx1. Okay, now why can that happen? Why does What is the situation in which your net export can rise? The net export can rise if either your export, because in the net export there are two elements, there is export minus import. So nx has gone up. Why has it gone up? Either your export has gone up, that autonomous element which is not related to income, either your export goes up. So when your export goes up and your import remains the same, then your net export rises. Or your export is the same, it does not increase, but your import falls. So when your import falls, again, your net export goes up, and there is a shift. Okay, there is no change in national income. The income is not a factor here. Here, the factor is export rising for whatever reason, or import falling for whatever reason, and your net export becomes better. On the other hand, what happens is that when your graph falls, it falls because you move from nx naught to nx2, and you move here because either your exports have fallen. Okay, if your exports have fallen, previously they were 100 and the imports were 50, and now they have fallen from 100 to 80 and the imports are still 50, so your net export falls from previously the net export was 50, now the net export becomes 30. So either your exports have fallen or your imports have gone up. So we are going to experience a parallel shift of the curve backward. Now look at the third graph. In the third graph, what is happening? Now in the third graph, your curve is not shifting. The curve is at the same point as it was. This is a very interesting situation. The curve is not shifting. What is happening is that simply your MPM changes, your propensity to import changes. We start from nx0 only. Okay, we are starting from net export 0, and your MPM falls. So when your MPM falls, for any increase in income, you're going to import less. Previously, you were importing, if your income went up by 100, you were spending 60% on imports. So imports were high. Now what happens is you are spending 30%. And let's say the MPM falls from 60 to 30. So your propensity to import has fallen. Once your desire to import has fallen, the imports will automatically fall. When the imports fall, then there will be an angular movement, there will be an angular shift, and we are going to experience an increase in net exports. On the other hand, if the marginal propensity to import changes in such a way that it rises, if the marginal propensity to import rises, then what happens? If the marginal propensity to import rises, then we are going to import more if the income goes up, and the net exports are going to fall to NX2. Okay, finally we look at the last curve on the right, and here both things are happening. Here the autonomous element is also changing, and the propensity is also changing. So what is happening in we start from NX0, NX0, and what happens is that the MPM, okay, the MPM rises. Okay, the MPM rises. Now the MPM has gone up, but at the same time the autonomous exports, let's say, okay, the autonomous exports have also gone up. Okay, so when the autonomous exports go up, your net export rises. In NX1, the autonomous exports have gone up, and your the entire curve shifts upward. Or in the other situation, your imports have gone down. So when your imports go down, once again there is a shift of the curve upward, but at the same time the MPM goes up. Okay, the MPM also rises, the propensity to import has also gone up. So what happens? There is a change, there is a sharper fall in the curve. The curve has shifted upward, but its gradient has become more steep. Likewise, when the MPM goes up but the net export falls, let's say that the imports have risen. Okay, the imports have risen. So when the imports rise, we are going to fall, the net export will fall to NX2, but compared to NX0, the MPM has also gone up. So the gradient of, if you look at it, the gradient of NX1 and NX2 is the same, because MPM has gone up, but in the first case the net exports have gone up, and in the second case the net exports have gone down. Okay, so I hope that these graphs are clear. Please do practice them once, and please write their explanation yourself. That way you're going to understand much better. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Take care.